Hello, Mark.
Hey Jeff, how are you doing?
I am doing well.
It's Friday,
Right.
TGIF and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're free of stress, not a care in the world.
Absolutely nothing on our plates.
No.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a Friday, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. We had the stress of the 1.1 a controversy,
Man,
which
it's
blew
such
up
a
and blew out, and
yeah. It was such a weird thing to get so caught up and invested in, I mean, I'm the smallest of small potatoes in all this, but I think that, you know, I'm not the only of the small potatoes out there, and I think we were all just as concerned about it as the big people, Cobalt and Paizo and all those people were, and I think for pretty good reason. There was a
yes,
lot on the table there, for a little bit, and it looked like it really did feel like they were literally going to try and take apart the um, ecosystem that they themselves uh, planted and grew and sort of cultivated. You know, yeah, it was really nuts. But we're at least on. I won't say we're on firm ground now, but compared to the wily coyote
yeah.
flailing in midair that we were on, this feels good enough to sort of like take a break and a deep breath and worry about something else for a change, like you know Zine Quest month.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what the benefit was. Like I've mentioned the podcast for those who are listening, that I rearranged my order of production.
Yeah,
And what it did is it took something that I was a whole lot less the sci-fi zine I'm going to be doing, that was still kind of ambiguous, and just forced me to I put it up front, then it forced me to actually look at and restructure it, and then
yeah.
also because of that, Adam Kovac, who's doing some writing, he looked at my nonsense, and you need an editor. What's going on here? This is stream of consciousness stuff. I gotta take care of that. Just give it to me, I'll take care of it.
Oh, that's
What's
awesome.
going on here? Why are you adding this? Where did this come from? I don't know.
Who can say? It's funny. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I kind of did the same thing, sort of. I was really on the fence about what I was even gonna do for Zine Quest month, and I had sort of made up my mind that I was gonna take my long-standing project and zenify it, and then literally, you know, the countdown to whether or not to even submit a thing was happening during all of this back and forth online, and the hashtags and the blow ups and the memes and stuff. And so what I started doing, and I let the hamsters on the wheel inside my head. I just WD-40'd it and let them go.
Yeah.
And so I literally started thinking, what's my next, what do I do if this, you know, dries up? And so it really forced me to sort of codify some stuff that's been sort of rattling around in my head, and look at it and go, okay, is this something I really want to work on, or is this just something to play with? We'll put it over here. Oh, this, on the other hand, this is something I really want to do, and maybe I need to bring this to the front if I'm not going to be able to do anything else, And for a while, even what I was thinking of is, can I take everything that I've written with Polite Society, all of it so far, which is right at about 80,000 words, give or take. And can I then take all of that and slide it into a game system that is not currently under attack? And can I do an OGL license for something completely different, you know, what's the least amount of conversion work I'm going to have to do to make it work? All of this stuff, man, just playing in a loop in my head. I was not fun to live with for about 2 weeks. You know, I just kept walking around muttering and staring into space going, well, if you write down might, are people going to know that strength? I mean, is that even the best word for strength? There's got to be something else that hasn't been used. Everybody can use strength, but what if you use might? And I just, you know, literally
Right.
chasing my own thoughts. It was stupid.
Well, we were all kind of, well, all, just a portion of our family was, we got a large family, but the portion of us were all standing around. My son, you know, asked me the question, my oldest son, and then I kind of, you know, from my wife and his girlfriend and everybody started kind of like unpacking all of the stuff within a few minutes. And my wife looked at me, she says, no wonder you're stressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And as bad as it was for you and for me and for a lot of our friends and people that we know personally and hang out with and all that, I can't imagine what that would have been like. I mean, I really do have a lot of sympathy for the people in the company and for the other companies as well, who are now looking at this going, well, do we go back to selling shoes, or, you know, do
Oh
we take
yeah.
2.5 years worth of stuff in the pipeline and scrap it? Or do we turn it into a Chaosium basic role playing thing instead? What do we do? You know,
Well, I think what you had is there's different situations. First of all, you had a lot of people who had inventory. What
oh yeah,
happens with that inventory?
right,
Then you have people who have large projects with multiple people in production.
right.
Those people are in a different, are also, I mean, that's another category of problem.
Yep,
And then you also just have, you know, stuff that you're starting to actually work on. But for people like, you know, Frog God and people, I mean, it could have been, it had the potential to be business destroying.
totally. Yeah, totally. You know, you know, and it looks like some folks kind of looked at some things and said, no, we're going to be okay. Everybody else was, you know, wait and see. I do think some good things came out of it, honestly. I, 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 I don't think it's a good thing that Wizards of the Coast burned off all of their goodwill,
Oh,
but
they gained nothing.
I do think that this gives them a chance to start over and come up with better ways to get that goodwill and trust back. Right.
It'll be years. It'll be
Oh,
years.
yeah, totally. Totally. It'll be years. Honestly, it's going to be a generation. You know, because it's going to literally, I think you're looking at another 15 to 20 years, depending on how you want to cut up, you know, where the dividing line is. But everybody that's already sort of in for a penny in for a pound on this digital play space is not the people that they were going to get. There weren't, everybody that was already there was already there. There was no winning me over to that. Right.
No, I think really I think it really kind of irked them. I think Pathfinder irked them and Kobold Press
Yeah.
irked them a little bit. But I think everybody else, they really didn't care. We were
Right. No.
just collateral damage. They really weren't worried about smashing all the slow people. They were kind of irritated, I think, that some people were making some good money. But I think what they were trying to do is funnel everything into the subscription service.
Mhm.
Everything, all content, I think
Right.
is really kind of what they were going for. And anything else that wasn't got their official brand would be excluded from the ecosystem and couldn't be published.
Yeah.
And
It's gonna take them a while, but I really love that Black Flag came out of this.
well, no, here's what's weird. Here's what I think is where this is where, to me, the interesting thing is going to be is Black Flag actually, from what I read or heard was true, Black Flag was actually started months ago.
Right. I think they might have already seen that sort of coming.
So
Or maybe they weren't. Maybe it was just happenstance. Yeah.
But think about this. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with Black Flag. But let's say they create a game system that is very D&D like, that continues to expand, and all the content is free.
Yeah.
Then video game publishers, everybody else will go to that.
Yeah, they're really they're making it a lot harder for people to want to deal with D&D, right? And because you don't have the hassle. The problem is, and this is the only thing that has saved Dungeons and Dragons from self annihilation, is that their brand as it stands is, well, it was, I don't know if it is anymore, but let's say prior to December 2022,
Yeah.
they were centimeters away from becoming, I forget what the term is, when you're when the one specific company or product becomes the universal term, like Kleenex,
Yeah.
right? Or Xerox. They were
Right.
this close. They were this close to having that, right? You know, we have a saying in Texas, it's all Coke unless it's Dr. Pepper. They were this close to Coke. And now maybe it's only that they're this far and can maybe get that back. But that movie would, even if the movie had been mediocre, all it had to be was better than the one from 99 or 2000, whichever the awful one was. It just had to be better than that. And the trailer was better than that movie. So clearly all they had to do was keep their mouth shut. And they could have done all of this kind of under the table, you know, and I mean, they'd still have to like set up like contracts and stuff like that. They would have eventually come out at some point, but they could have gotten a lot further down the line, and they could have had the momentum of a pop culture movie out in that kind of arena, but they didn't do it. And so, you know, I'm very fond of whenever I see something like this happening to, you know, like a Wall Street person who was part of the housing crisis, or, you know, one of those. I always think it couldn't happen to a nicer group of jerks.
Right.
and I don't really want to. I don't want to feel that way about the people that work at Wizards of the Coast, but I absolutely feel that way about the suits, who we know are not. You know, this is the other thing about D&D. I hate it's obvious that you don't want a gamer running your company, but you can't have not a gamer running it either.
Right. You need to have people on the board. And
There's
that's what somebody pointed out, that they started removing people on the board that actually, they were just all outsiders.
Yeah.
They also,
and they were outsiders who thought they knew best. That's the most damning part of it, is that I know this brand is 45, 50 years old, but I really feel like I can bring something new to it that you guys never thought of before. What's that? We'll change how everything is done. Oh, well, yeah, that's going to go over like a lead balloon.
Well, they come from software, and I think there's a lot more leverage that people have, and they did not understand the situation. I don't think we even understood, like, the you know, really honestly, I think the real power came from, not from us. It really came from all those live streamers that this old people like to make fun of and rant about. They are the ones that turned this around. It wasn't us.
Oh, no. I mean, I canceled my D&D Beyond subscription. It was a drop in the bucket, you know?
Yeah.
That's $5 a month they're not getting from me. Yeah. Okay, champ.
Well, but the thing is, it's those young people, that's who they're looking at. And they're the ones that are more into the digital and more likely to buy fully into that. Not right. That, and I think they are the ones, you know, it's those not the Critical Roles, but whoever the 1 million follower type people, they're the ones that
Generation Z. Yeah. So they're the ones that have grown up in a digital space.
Yeah, I think they saved us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They saved us. So.
Yeah, they did. It was thank God they have a very, very strongly placed sense of propriety, ethics, and morals and scruples in place, because honestly, it sounds like I'm making fun, and I'm really not, because one of the things that one of my, you know, I try to Pollyanna, Jeff. I try to be a positive person, one of the things that I was like really grateful for was I don't think there's been a thing that I can think of in recent memory that banded geeks together in such a way that we all were able to take a common action.
Yeah.
And that was good to see. And it was also really good to see people talking about how, well, the board of directors doesn't have any uh, a loyalty or allegiance to anything except itself. Boards of directors and corporations exist to make money for the shareholders. That's what they do. That's their function. And so now here's all that coming back to bite us. Oh God, maybe all corporations aren't good. And I'm like, you know what? However we got to that conversation, I am thrilled about, because yeah, that's the new big bad. It's not the government, it's the corporations. And now we're in my tinfoil hat area here, but
Well, and I don't believe in general that corporations are immoral. I just believe fully that they're amoral.
that's right. That's right. And certainly not all of them are, the devil incarnate. And there's quite a few that do really good, sustainable work. But the thing is that they're not obliged to, right? They're not
Right.
beholden to. And so how, a corporation is only as good as the people who've set it up and the reason why they're running it, and all of that. And when there was some really good reporting that was confirmed by multiple sources, which I again was really excited about, that we didn't have another one of these ethics and journalism discussions, because everybody was being really good about fact checking, and this comes from a source, and this is a person who said this. But one of the things that they brought up was that the they had $1 billion brand in Magic the Gathering, $1 billion brand, and they wanted another one. and the notion of being a toy company that sells little plastic figures and bits of playing card and books printed in China and action figures based on Marvel comics and GI Joe, that they could have in their retinue, their stable, if you will, of IP, $1 billion brand, and they look at it, then they look around and go, you know what we need though? We need another one. We need a second $1 billion brand. It doesn't matter that D&D was only worth $150 million. And of course, this was all happening a year and a half ago, pre-movie. So, you could have absolutely had a brand worth of half a billion dollars if you did just kept your mouth shut. We're back to that.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah.
So yeah, there's a point. I'm one of those people, for my sins, that will always, I don't begrudge anybody's right to make money. I don't begrudge anybody's right to get rich doing something fun or clever or interesting or necessary or any of that. I do always ask the question, how much is enough money?
Well, to me, that doesn't even really bother me. I think the problem I had is, as a company, they made a promise and they actually created a legal agreement written in what everybody thought was fairly understandable
ironclad language. Yeah.
And I told my son, who's much too young to remember this, it goes back to the trial of Bill Clinton with the Monica Lewinsky. The idea is, what is your definition of is?
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, now, regardless of whether it's right or wrong for Bill Clinton to be in there, that's another thing. But the idea is, once you start playing around with what exactly do you mean by is, or do you mean is?
Right.
Because I'm taking it as is, not is. And once you go down that road with lawyers, we as common people can't trust them. And even lawyers start saying they may be right. They may not be right.
Right. It's possible to break that into enough minutia that you obfuscate the actual.
Right. When you're destroying language in order to create legal leverage.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Where the point where it says we can never, ever, ever, ever trust them. That's where I think is the evil of what I say evil. I don't want to necessarily say evil. but that is their greatest sin. I think it wasn't trying to do all this. It's just the way they went about it
Right.
was very much a, and I think the thing is, you know, as in the past, as a company, they made promises. They're the same company, different people, but they as a
Right.
company made a promise.
That's yeah, and to take it back to what you were saying earlier, you know, that was the thing that everybody kept hammering them on. And I think that's the thing that Generation Z went, oh, wait a second, what, they lied? Because one of the few things that Generation Z can't stand, it's a liar. Well, I'll tell you, that's a cardinal up there with them. And so yeah, this was all big liar pants on fire. And I
Well,
think it
people
was
built
just,
lives, people built companies, they built lives, they have employees, they got people who are just, you know, doing videos and having, I mean, like a whole ecosystem, like
yeah,
grew up, and they want to destroy all of it
yeah.
for no good reason.
I mean, it's a biome, you know. Yeah, that's it had atmosphere and
And it was right next to their city, and it benefited their city.
yeah, I know.
It never took away from their city.
I got chastised a little bit for throwing shade at the at some of the people that have written some things from D&D. So I won't continue to have that shade, but I will point out that yeah, they benefited greatly from all the third party stuff, not just at the DMs Guild, but you know, even prior to that, when it was, you know, when people were doing basically the equivalent of a software patch for the latest hardcover that came out.
Yeah.
Here's all the rules that make this game playable. Here's a chapter 0 you can put in front of the first adventure to get players in smoothly.
All
Here's
right.
connective tissue for all of that. Here's 100 random encounters for how long they're going to hang out in Waterdeep. Here's you know, and people would do these PDFs that would, you know, stack up and basically be a second, almost a second book's worth of here's how to make Dragon Heist work. Here's how to turn Dragon Heist into a heist. Here's how to turn, you know, here's how to make the
right. It went from one is let's make sense of this nonsense to, boy, let's take the material and make it more expandable and even more usable.
And I
so it was all augmentation.
Yeah, and I can tell you right away that I bought more than one book with kind of in the back of my head, well, if it isn't, I'm interested enough in the subject matter that if they don't stick the landing, I'm sure there's going to be somebody on the DMs Guild that's going to have something that'll make this sing. You know, and that's exactly what is there, you know. There's over 500 products on the DMs Guild right now with the word Dragon Heist, you know, in the title, you know, over 500, you know, and it ranges from pay what you want to, you know, $19.95 for the complete bundle, over 200 pages of PDFs designed to make Dragon Heist not, you know, so bad anymore. So, you know, I don't want to say that I'm not saying that Wizards should have been grateful, but again, read the room. You know,
well,
a lot of people doing a lot of stuff for your company in good faith.
No, this is what they wanted to be back in the original Wizards of the Coast days. Is they want other people to write the content,
right?
And they were willing to just sell core books. Here, they were not only not writing the content, but they were getting a 30% cut of the content, right? Or was it 20%? I can't remember which.
I think it's a 50-50 split. If you're
part of it goes to drive through, so it's not 100%. So
okay, yeah. So they split a 50% divot, and you take 50%, but it's a yeah.
So they're making like 30%, let's say, where before, even with WotC in their early days, they were getting nothing. Here they're actually, and they were happy with nothing. Now they're getting 30% without having to actually with zero risk.
Yeah, I know. And some of those things, some of those products, you know, they've now made it possible to bind your PDF in a soft cover or bind it in a hardcover. They've got products that have sold better than some of the things that they've released. Whoops. So, you know, again, I'm not trying to kick anybody when they're down. They're going to be fine down the road. I just yeah, it was baffling. It was the kind of baffling that makes me just like wonder, was your head with you all day today?
Well, I remember when they actually, stated what they stated, and then Rob Conley, who's a great at distilling the stuff, he
Yes.
posted. I'm like, so is this over? Like he's like, basically, yeah. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't even know how to feel.
Yeah, me either. I wasn't expecting a complete capitulation. And and now unfortunately, and other people have done this as well. All well, it's coming. That that they haven't given up. They're just waiting. They're just biding their time until something happens. Well, what? I don't know.
Well,
right now they're going to be under such scrutiny for the foreseeable future.
Well, that 5.1 or 5 whatever being put into the or into the Creative Commons,
Yeah,
and it allows for derivative, so you can go backwards from it, and so it doesn't necessarily protect 100% of everything, but pretty much my understanding,
I'm
it
free to
does.
rock. Yeah,
It's like it's probably more open than it was. Definitely more open than 1.0. Or
yeah. I
was.
think, or it's certainly as open, and actually, yeah, I'd say with Creative Commons it's more open, definitely.
Yeah, and at least that's what Mike Shea was saying on his. He's got a great podcast. So,
and they've the other thing that they well, I just saw this today. Cobalt is doing regular updates. They basically said Black Flag is going to be 5th edition derivative.
Yeah, what they're doing is they are pathfindering
Right,
5th edition.
right.
But the thing is what could be interesting is they could Paizo them.
Oh, they could, yeah. Again, it would not be the first time the D&D has, in doing something stupid, created their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to see that, like, 20 years later they did it again. Wait, what? When they do this in movies, we call it a reboot, and we usually hate it.
But if you think about it, like, let's say you go with so Paizo has a whole bunch of lore, the setting. They're probably
a metric ton of it. Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it's probably. Well, I'm not gonna make a judgment. I don't know. I don't know about either one. I was just compared to Forgotten Realms, but we'll just say it's actually probably at least comparable as far as content and quality.
I think it's comparable in content. I think it is better in quality because I think that they went ahead and made conscious choices early on that this is gonna be our thing.
Yes.
And I think that D&D, especially with 5th edition, decided to publish a greatest hits version of the game so that you could play whatever you wanted to using the tool set that they made for you. But Paizo and Pathfinder always had a more coherent.
Yeah, and that's my feeling too. But I haven't read a lot into it. But anyway, I think the thing is that I think they stand a chance for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to ever topple D&D, but it will be interesting to see how this expands into other IPs beyond just the print and the digital.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would be surprised, especially since they've got all this heat. The only way that they shut down the kind of licensing competition you're kind of alluding to is if the D&D movie is off the hook. If the D&D movie comes out and it's got the biggest gross of the weekend, and they can keep it in the top 3 for a month, or in the top 5 for a month, and they can get $500 million or more out of it worldwide. If it comes out like a wrecking ball, then anybody going to do licensing with them often takes not only the biggest fish but the path of least resistance.
Right.
And something tells me Hasbro would be willing to cut a deal. I don't know why. I just feel like maybe they'd do anything for money right now. But yeah, but that nevertheless, you got more people now. Paizo has sold out of their books. They had an 8-month supply of players' handbooks and
Oh,
rules.
right. It sold out, I think, in 2 weeks. With it normally takes like 8 or 9 months to sell.
Yeah. And Cobalt hasn't ever put out a book per se, but Cobalt has run incredibly successful Kickstarters that they keep pumping, and their content is also built on a world where they basically said, let's build a world and this is what's in the world, right? It's not a toolkit.
Right.
These are the monsters of Midgard, and so it's just a question. It's just a matter of getting the rules behind their intake of, like, here's our version of a battle bard, here's our version of a singing sorcerer, or whatever the hell they've got going on. Their lore is good. Both. Well, both. I kid.
No, you said the singing sorcerer. You're kind of, it's like, that's kind of fun. But I kind of want to see that class now.
Yeah, but both of those companies have really good immersive world environments, and
Yeah.
the other thing that D&D is going to teach people this year, because everybody's trying new stuff, is that the environment is what makes it work. The game mechanics have to be good and make sense, and it helps if they support the world environment. Call of Cthulhu is the best example of this and remains the best example of this. Their rules support everything that you're going to deal with in the game, and there's no real wiggle room. Sanity is perfect as a mechanic. But D&D is still, they're not. They put out Dragonlance, and nobody liked it because it changed some stuff that somebody didn't have. They put out Spelljammer that everybody's excited about, and it didn't teach you how to fight ship to ship. I mean, there was just
right.
It's that kind of stuff, It's that kind of, like, that's the stuff that they haven't been good at for a while. Maybe because of internal conflict, maybe because of strife. I don't know. Maybe because they're not used to doing it. I don't know how it works at that level. I have no idea. They might as well be killing calves and putting them on rocks and saying words under the noonday sun. I don't know how you do Spelljammer and not have ship to ship combat. That seems like a base level editing omission to me.
Yeah.
And never mind the stuff that the kids get upset about. But
right. What you're saying is, in the beginning, you'd say you get a bunch of fans and you'd say, what are core activities that this game should be doing? Well, we should be doing this. We should be doing. I never played Spelljammer, so I don't know. But we should be doing this. We should be doing this. So you list out 5 things. Say these are the core activities. We need to support these 5 key activities.
It seems pretty obvious, and for some of the people that are working there, they grew up playing Spelljammer. So yeah, it's weird to me. It is. It's strange.
Well,
but I'm glad we're on the other side of it, regardless.
Yeah, we are.
At least for now.
Well, yeah, it is. So anyway, enough of that talk. We need to devote just a little bit of time for promoting our stuff.
Oh yes, the Kickstarter. You're doing well with Gary's Appendix.
Yeah, the advantage to Gary's is I had issue 1 already done. Also, Fane. So I had a Kickstarter in August, then a Kickstarter in October, and now a Kickstarter in February, and hopefully have one in April. But each one keeps bringing in new people to Gary's Appendix.
Yep. Yeah, that is one of the things that they don't tell you about Kickstarter, is that thankfully, now that you can do add-ons, there's always people that discover your work from the get-go, and in doing so realize, oh, these other things look really cool. I need to get those too. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what's weird is, I just had Fate of the Fly God kickstarted in October. Now I have people like thankful, like, oh, I missed out on it. I get to do it now in February. It's like, I thought it was done. I thought whatever I had was done. Like, I mean, as far as like, I sold X number of copies. I might sell a handful more, but I figured that was it. But it may just have a life that just kind of keeps going. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think that going forward, I'm going to look really hard at when I know I'm going to be running a Kickstarter that's going to have some promotional oomph behind it, like Zine Quest. I released Tools of the Trade last year. And it came out just before the do we even want, I don't know what you call Zine Quest for. Was it halvesies? I don't know. It was really weird. I didn't like it in August. I like it better in February. But my number one thing that people bought with Ogres 11 was Tools of the Trade, because they otherwise wouldn't see it, because these are people that are cluing in on Zine Quest, or maybe just I mean, I tend to not email my backers unless I've got something to say or whatever, and I try not to spam them for very much for other things. So I just put out that this is here and this is the thing. And even though they knew about Tools of the Trade, they were happy to buy it, in a package with Ogres 11. So I'm going forward. I may not be relying completely on Zine Quest for stuff. But if I've got a smaller project, I know I can put that out, and people are going to hear about it from my various other sections. But it's not until Zine Quest that it'll actually do a lot, because people are going to pick up on it and be like, oh, I didn't know he did this, and there it is.
The thing is, I don't know. And I can look at a little bit of statistics. What I don't know is how much of a bump I got because this was Zine Quest. I the advantage I had, I mean, because this is the first time I've actually done like a second thing in a row that was everything was like, okay, I'm going to do Scoundrels. That's a sci-fi thing. And I'm going to do Journey in the Madlands. That's a post-apocalyptic thing. And I'll do, then I do Gary's. That's a D&D thing. So it's like, this is actually a product that is like a continuation of a previous product. Yeah. That actually can gain momentum. And that's what I was hoping for. And I don't know. I don't know, like even for yours, it's been interesting because I've been also analyzing your Kickstarter and Kicktrack. I've looked at it different ways. Do you look at Kicktrack at all?
I do. Yeah, I look at Kicktrack, and
so do you look at the dailies?
Because I haven't yet, because I've only been open for 3 days. But
no, I don't do the projections. I look at the daily. So if you could, so what I look at is like, what's that curve going to be like? So I compare. So also Levi's got the dungeon. I forgot it. Malarkey.
Right.
I had a strong start. Levi had a super strong start.
Yeah.
Huge drop off, a significant drop off. Mine dropped off more than he did percentage wise. And then the third day is kind of the drop off. Yours had a slow first day start, but yours did not drop off as much on the second day.
It's true.
And the third day, yours still didn't really drop off like terribly. So, I mean, there was a significant drop off, but it wasn't near severe. So I don't know if and that's where it's hard is to know is like, I think what happened is we had a bunch of people that were hot and heavy for Levi has a following. And so there's people that are like, yes, Levi does, will buy.
Right.
Yours may be what you're getting through, maybe through discovery, and maybe that will be consistent with what you've got and what your price point is. Like,
Yeah,
maybe
I
you
hope
can be
so.
maybe you can be steady for it's gonna be hard for 28 days.
It's yeah, it's this is the first. There's a few things that I'm doing differently. So, with this tools of the not tools of trade, with this polite society zine idea, I'm going back to something I did the first year I did Zine Quest, which was a quarterly zine. I do several issues, but I've done enough, and I think I've been enough of a person that's worked on. Well, I worked on one of yours, and I worked on a couple of other things. So I'm hoping that enough people have like seen and looked at some of the stuff that I've done with an eye towards, okay, I know what Mark's been working on. He's been working on it in his other zines already. So this is just going to be more of the stuff that he's been doing. But I, instead of doing it, see, they always said they're in their rules, run it for 2 weeks. Well, of course, no one paid any attention to the rules. So this is the first year that I'm running it for the month. It's gonna end
Yeah,
on the
so it's talking
27th.
to Zach Goins, World of Game Design, who helps me run these. I'd be more bonkers than I am now if it wasn't for Zach.
Sure.
He said the rules are they have to the campaign has to be it has to be somehow in February. So you could go from January 1st to February 2nd.
Oh, I see.
It just has to somehow, part of that project has to be in it. Now, originally, I think they were saying 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was the original setup. Do a 8.5 by 5.5 zine with stapled with black and white interiors, and run a campaign for 2 weeks, and let's have some fun with it. That was that was the original pitch.
Yeah. And so now that is that. So, and I think right, but I don't know how. It'd be interesting to know how. So the other thing is with the zine quest, and I hate to admit it because I'm part of it. I'm paying a whole lot less attention to what other people are doing now because I just don't have bandwidth to pay. I haven't searched through it, looked through it, because I remember 2 years ago or 2.5 years or 3 years ago, however many years ago it was, I can't remember now. It just seems like an eternity. It was like pouring through them, but now I'm just like, I got too much going on.
That's part of it, and also I think part of it is Zine Quest 3. I'll go ahead and tell you, I spent over $350 on zines in Zine Quest 3. I spent a lot of money on zines. It's probably not as much as some other people did, but a lot of those were PDFs. And then for the like cool zines, like the ones that I thought, oh, that's a neat style or a different thing, or I really like the art or whatever, I'd get a physical copy. And what I found is that I read them and then I put them up, and I decided that I was not going to be that kind of a collector, and that I would only be interested in picking up stuff that I thought I could use either at a table, playing a game, or if I was somehow looking at something in the same genre, how'd they handle it, or
Right.
oh, this is a style that I think it might be cool, for research purposes or whatever. And so that has actually saved me several $100s. I still go through all the projects, but I'm a lot more discerning now, and I tend to really appreciate the gonzo ones, because that's a headspace that I don't have a good accounting for. But I do still go through them, maybe not in quite as much a detail. I can skip, for example, not because I hate them, but because I just don't do them. I don't do journaling games. It's not normally something I am a fan of. I've got a lot of them. I've looked at them, and structurally they're all kind of alike for me. So I don't think I need another one unless some sort of really cool thing comes along you know, something that's just like, so, oh, that's 100% out of Mark's brain. Like if someone were to like take Kiss from the 70s when they had superpowers
Oh
and
yeah.
I don't know, dinosaurs. And I mean, it would have to be something like, you know,
Well, I think the problem is, or maybe it goes along with Dungeon 23.
mhm.
And like I really, really wish I wished I would be participating in Dungeon 23 because that's something I'm not good at. But the problem is I don't have the time. Like
Yeah,
when I say I don't have time, I mean I'm not allocating time for that because
right.
everybody's got 24 hours a day. I could do it. There's nothing stopping me from putting 10 minutes a day to doing it, but I choose not to. But I think the thing is that, you know, like for journaling, I think for people who enjoy writing and maybe don't always write and want to stretch that muscle, or people that really already enjoy journaling, it's perfect. I
Oh, I totally agree.
and
Yes.
I wouldn't even mind doing it because I don't do that kind of stuff. But for you, you don't need writing prompts. You don't need you really don't need that. And like I remember, like there's a fellow who was complaining about Dungeon 23 and the stress that it does. And the guy's a wonderful guy, and I basically I talked to him about it, but I'm like, dude, you draw maps for a living. Like,
Yeah.
you write adventures for a living. You don't need to be doing that. That's not like, like it's for those of us who don't. But yeah, he was feeling stressed about it. And well, he chose not to because he knew he would feel stressed. But I'm thinking it's like it's for those of us who like need that prompting and have the extra time.
I thought to myself, you know what this would be? This would be a really cool way to like have like a zine to publish when I'm
Hmm.
done. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like this would be, I could just literally publish this as a giant ass mega dungeon, and I suspect some people will do that. The problem is that I'm behind on it now because I have literally taken, you know, I had to fight to write stuff in January. I had to fight it because I, I'd sit down and go, oh, room 23. If it'll even be relevant next year, well, here's some stuff in room 23. You know what I mean? I was hate writing it because I didn't know where we were going to be.
I think,
So
well, I think the problem is writing. I think to me, and this is, everybody can do what they want and everybody can make it what they want. But for me, that wasn't the point.
yeah. Oh
You know,
no, it's about doing it. It's a writing prompt. It's a morning pages style exercise if you follow the writer's way, or writing the
yeah.
bare bones or anything like that. No, I think I think it's fantastic, but I tend to always evaluate, because you're right. I don't need a prompt, and if anything, I need someone to tell me not to do something. Um, but always I've always got something I'm working on, writing, whatever it is. Me getting.
See, I
I
think
don't
for
need a
you, I
morning
think
page.
for you, what the advantage would be is if you're saying, what I'm wanting to do is write concisely.
Yes, if I were using it to do that, and I can already tell you I haven't.
And you could say, my goal is for this dungeon I'm going to do is each room will only have 3 sentences.
Oh, Jeff, that sounds amazing. That sounds so cool. Oh my God. What do 3 sentences on a page look like? Could you show me? Because I don't know that I've ever seen me write just three
It's a lot of work to
sentences.
write 3 sentences.
Oh my, it is. It's honestly, the being able to get all that stuff encapsulated and have it all be there. Yeah,
And
it's
I think, it's things like that. For me, it would be like the opposite, where I need to learn how to describe rooms properly.
mhm,
And so for me, that would be the focus. Like,
yeah,
okay, it wouldn't be so much about a monster encounter, but like, okay, what things are in it and how do I want to describe it in a way that actually, is compelling.
right,
And so
right,
that's where I would focus on. And I really
totally.
wouldn't care if I really wouldn't care that it actually makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I sort of had to kind of decide for myself if I if I was just going to do a giant mega dungeon, I think that's easier to do than if you try to like figure out a reason why you would have 12 levels to a thing.
Right.
You know, it's creative exercises. They're great. We all need them. And I love the fact that the community of bloggers and zinesters and, the creative community for gaming, is by and large getting along, participating, cross promoting. I think it's great. I think it's probably the thing that kept me on an even keel through all of the nonsense. So I'll probably finish it. I'm not sure if I'll publish it. And if I decide not to finish it, it's because I will eventually get to a point where I go, yeah, I don't want to publish this, you know. But I am enjoying it for what it is. So that's something, I guess. I got to get my kicks on Route 66 when I can find them,
Yeah, and so I guess I wasn't wanting to get into this, but we kind of will. It is very stressful because you've set because you decided to do all 4 zines. Kind of, you based it all or nothing, basically.
I kind of did. Yep.
And I'm like,
I kind of did.
And the part of me wants to like yell, Mark, just stop. You're going off the cliff. But part of me says, Jeff, you're no expert. Like, who are you to tell people what to do? Who are you to say, oh, this is nigh impossible? It's like, we paint ourselves into corners, and that, well, that's not a good metaphor. Sometimes we put ourselves in difficult situations, and that forces us to rise above. And I'm like, you know what? Where's the line to say, Mark, ooh, this is good. To say, like, Mark, you just.
And yet I appreciate your wise counsel. I do, because it does make me, kind of stop and reevaluate. And the other thing that I kind of I sort of came to grips with the idea that if let's pretend it doesn't find for some whatever reason. I
don't be sick just saying that.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything. I don't think I'm asking for too much money, especially because of what.
No.
I'm
no, what you're asking for the product you're delivering is not too much money. That is there is nothing that I'm going to say that will right. I do not believe that's the case.
It is a case of, is this something that a D&D, a dungeon master or a game master or players even would be interested in? And there was no way I was going to not do this product this year with the D&D movie looming as large as it is. There was just no way I couldn't afford to do it any other time.
Well, so what you're doing is you're trying to fund all 4 issues at one time. So not one book, but all 4 periodicals at one time.
I'm trying to, yes. And the idea is I've kept it as lean as I can do. There is a small budget included in each issue for a nice piece of cover art, for me to hire 1 or 2 people to write fanzine / semi-pro rated things, as opposed to pro rates for word counts. There's and again, it'll be great. I don't think my layouts are ugly. I don't think they're gorgeous. I don't do Morkborg, but you'll be able to read my stuff and it'll all make sense and everything will work. And then, the stretch goals were literally for, hey, let me put a graphic designer on this and make it prettier. Let me get a better artwork from somebody else that's going to charge me $500 instead of $250 or whatever, there's really not much in there. There's not a lot of fat I can trim, but I will tell you this: if I don't fund, I'm still going to do the zine. It probably won't look as good.
When you say do the zine, what do you mean do the zine?
like you said earlier, I don't have to zine during Zine Quest.
Oh, you mean do another Kickstarter? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Well, no. If I can't kickstart it for that amount, what I'll do is I'll have to change my publishing plans, because my plan was to do one offset printed, uh like a single edition of the issue, you know. If I get 100 people in that want the physical copies, I will do 125 copies, and then everybody gets a copy that wants one. And once those 25 copies are gone from my convention appearances, that's it. The POD files, which I have put on Drive Through RPG in the past for people who like to hold a physical object, I'm not doing that this time. It's
Okay, so I guess we're just gonna go through the details. I'm a little confused. So you reach the end of the Kickstarter,
right.
and it doesn't fund, and Kickstarter kills the project. Boom, it's gone.
Yeah,
Doesn't fund.
it just means it doesn't fund, but I'll still have all of that material.
You're right. You have the material, but then but you don't have the backers.
Right. But what I will do is I will contact everybody in my old Kickstarter files, and I'll put a copy up, and I'll do a copy. I'll do a first issue, probably out of Drive Through, and I'll do it as a POD book, or a PDF, or both. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want them hanging around.
I think the problem is, and I will say, and I believe this firmly, I think that for sales goes, I don't think you can beat Kickstarter. And I think you'd be better off to actually just kickstart just a one issue.
You think I should go back and kickstart just a single issue?
Yes.
Well,
what I think you can do is, I think with that, and if you set a lower amount, I think you can build momentum.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You know, that is an option, and so is just putting an issue up, and putting 2 or 3 issues up, and then when Zine Quest 6 rolls around, I know that people will then go back and get those, you know, because they missed them. You know what I mean? Having them on Drive Through RPG kind of keeps them there in perpetuity, which is awesome. So, you know, I'm not opposed to either one.
And you could also set up a Lulu store as well.
I've been looking at Lulu.
And then you could also send them to go to Lulu to buy things as well.
I've been looking at Lulu. I've used several POD printers in my time. It's been a while since I got anything from Lulu. But everybody that I've talked to recently has said that Lulu has done great stuff, has done really good work. They also do full color pages. Now it's not cheap, you know.
You're basically, in this day and age, you're going to double the price of your product,
in color.
The cost of your product.
Yeah.
If you go to color, you can do a color cover. It's not that big a deal, but color interior doubles your price.
Right. And see, one of the things that I'd always wanted to do for Polite Society was black and white interiors with spot color in the book. So instead of a 4-color process, it would be a 2-color process. And you really can only do that at a physical printer these days. Because if
you're going all color basically, because they're doing inkjet.
Right. And so that's the rub. You know, if you wanted to do an offset press, a real offset press, and have it look, you know, that kind of like Sin City, you know, like Frank Miller would do with
Trevor's been doing that with the Smoking Worm with the risograph, right. and also the Silly did
I love I've been looking at risograph quite a bit, and you know, those just have a certain look about them, which I love. But you know, that will be down the road once the zines are all out, and I've got all this material, and somebody says, Mark, this is great, but what you really need to do is you need to put this together in a book. And I go, oh, what a great idea. The thing I was going to do all along anyways, I'll just do that. So
Yeah.
this was literally, this was a case of striking while the iron is hot for me. I can't wait on this any longer, and I can't, I've always given this first priority unless I had something else to work on. And then it would be like, well, I got to
Right.
get this out.
Well, the
first.
thing is really since I mean, you had other stuff you've done in the past, but as far as like product goes,
Right.
you know, you do not have the benefit of having a previous one that was done, even though you kind of do have some of your other stuff. I think you've gotten some people from before, but I mean,
Yeah.
so we're always going to also, it's going to rely on your marketing.
My ability to convince you that I can do.
Yes. Beating
Yes.
the bushes and finding people and megaphone, because, you know, I think you do have it, and I don't know how much, but I think I have an OSC sticker on mine, and that carries a certain amount of marketing draw. You know, where in 5e might, I just don't know how much, but I mean, I mean, you can do it. Your numbers have been day 2 and 3, I believe, are fairly steady.
Yeah.
You know, the question is going to that curve, and I think, you know, it's just, and it may be, you know, whatever it may be, to communicate to the buyer what they're getting, and that's what they need and what they want.
I was emboldened, I guess, by the success of Ogre's 11 because of how it never really fell. It just kind of kept doing this. You know what I mean? And it never
So for me, for Gary's, it kept going up. For me, for Fane, I went for a month, and there was a week that I was losing money. I was like, oh, I should have shut her down before that. Like, in the end, it did fine, but I should have gone for 4 weeks. It should have gone for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's 4 weeks was perfect. Gary's it was always a bonus day.
Right.
Fane, buyer's regret.
Like, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as there were people that are like, you know, they backed out. I think it was because it was a higher price point.
And speaking of which, I have an idea for if you're doing Gary's Appendix 3, I have an idea for an article I want to do.
Okay. Well, you know what?
About henchmen and hirelings.
I'm always looking for pitches.
Okay. We'll talk about it when I'm not being recorded.
We will do that. It may have to go into 4, but that's okay.
Oh, you know what? If you've got enough for 3, that's fantastic. That's really
well.
cool.
No, the 3. So I'm going to announce this. I might be off a little bit on my seasons, so I'll just go tell the story. So, so I was like, Chema did some art, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I like this kind of style. And I said, Chema, you know, why don't you? He goes, well, what's in it? I said, well, this stuff's in it. And it's like, and he's like, okay. So he kind of sketched something up, and it was like a temple, a church, and some different things. And he's like, what I'm looking more for is the geometry of pointing upward, the strong geometry. So I was like, well, okay. He put all his work into it, and he gave it to me. It's like, I love the colors. I love what it is. But boy, it has a Halloween feel to it.
Oh. All right.
And so I think what I'm going to do is it's going to be not necessarily a Halloween theme, but yeah, that sort of angle.
Yeah.
So it could be about horror. It could just be about monster, or not monsters, but it could be maybe about cinema, whatever it may be. It's, I think, going to be all themed around something around undead, horror,
okay,
movies, whatever it may be, that's going to tie in to that.
I got 2 things to pitch you then.
Okay.
Cool. That's awesome.
And yeah, so we could talk after that, but so yes, that's the thought for that.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. And so do you have them scheduled in your yearly planner yet, or you're just kind of
So
waiting to see?
ideally, all subject, and of course, nobody's going to be listening to hold me to this. So the plan is, Fate of the Fly God. Oh God. I'm still. I'm going to be. I just the backer kit's all launching. I'm going to be maybe doing POD orders here shortly. So it's going to be. So Gary's is in February.
Yep.
The Scoundrels of Brixton is going to be a series starting in April. Then I'm thinking Gary's Appendix maybe in July.
Okay.
And then I would like to get Journey to Madlands to a certain level.
Okay.
And then maybe either another Guns of Brixton or another Gary's Appendix. And then I also got a secret project I'm kind of working on.
Boy, I'm telling you, you're trying to give Philip Reed a run for his money.
Yeah, it's it's I don't think I'll ever get there.
I don't think any of us will ever get Phil. I think he's the Flash. He's the fastest man alive.
And so then I'm driving home, so I'm all kind of stressed about this and that and this and that, and I'm driving to work. And if you've ever seen the Blues Brothers?
Oh yeah.
And so do you remember how I think it was Elwood the
Elwood's Dan Aykroyd.
Okay. So I think so Elwood was trying to get Jake into doing this thing, and Jake just was dead set against it.
And he goes to the church.
And he sees a light. Yeah. That is what happens to me.
Now I imagine you flipping down the aisle.
Yeah, except it's not physically, but then once that light hits me,
right,
I am on a divine quest.
Yeah, buddy. Been there, done that, man.
So I've got two things that are really burning really hot, and a new one just came up. So that's another project for 2024. And the nice thing about it, it doesn't involve me doing any writing.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, since you're sharing, this is not on my this is on my back burner. But one of the things that I have been dealing with for all this time with Polite Society was, one of the things you have to do to play D&D is you have to basically move some sliders around so that D&D is not quite as D&D. Well,
what I love was the face and the vocal affectation.
I just mean that there's big magic and
there's certain knobs and dials that need to be adjusted down to be able to effective, like if you want to make it
more
horror,
sword and sorcery,
right?
You make it sword and sorcery, hardcore mode, whatever, and it occurs to me that even for game systems, which I think really grab a lot of sword and sorcery to begin with, like Dungeon Crawl Classics and Index Card RPG, I don't think there's a real sword and sorcery game out there, with the possible exception, I would say, Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. Hyperborea is very sword and sorcery, and I love it, but it's not sword and sorcery like
Conan,
for what I want to do with like town adventures, city adventures. So I am in the back of my head thinking about what a game system would look like if it used that D20 5e mechanic, or if it used something else that was easy to play, but sort of like tailor-made for rogues and those kinds of characters. They tried it back in the 80s, Gamesman Limited, put out a game called Thieves Guild. And unfortunately, it wasn't a complete game. And all of their Thieves Guild supplements had little extra rules in it. They never quite got a whole thing together. I kind of want to do that. I kind of want to do what they were unable to do.
Well, that's another secret project I'm working on. Codename Project Broadsword.
We should talk.
We should talk. Yeah. So we are in the, when I say we, it's not just Jeff. So
yeah,
we are in a very preliminary stages. We are sketching things out on napkins.
right.
So there is a direction that it's possible that we will be going.
If you think my Robert E. Howard expertise would be of any use to you, feel free to loop me in.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the case. So I think
but I understand the sketching on napkins phase that's almost as ethereal as writing an elevator pitch. It's the drawing version of that. So I get it. But yeah.
So it is a culmination of two people being too busy, somebody making an offhanded comment, me taking it serious, and them taking it serious. And so we'll talk afterwards.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
So yeah, but this is not 2024 stuff. We're talking, further out.
Oh no, it would be, it's down the road a piece, because I anticipate, I know I just did a little I went back and worked through my index and sort of assigned like this article here and this article here, and I want to put these here and these here, and came up with just kind of very rough cut, like 6 issues of Polite Society. And then I looked at the rest of the stuff that I hadn't sort of slotted into the first 6 issues and said, I can do at least 8 of these, and I might need to do more than 8. So my intention is, one way or another, getting this stuff out as quickly as I can, and with the intention of getting as much of this in place so that, you can look at it and decide, oh, there's enough here to make a book. I want to do a book. You should do a book. Why can't I get pages with these? How come you haven't done new character sheets with all this extra info on it? Or, whatever that is. I want that to be sort of the next phase. So, I'm hoping that if the first 4 fund, man, that's going to be fantastic. I would love it. It would be awesome. And I will absolutely do the next round of funding in Zine Quest for number 6. But even if that doesn't happen, I'm going to put these out, because I'm at a point now where I need this out of my head. Right. You know what I mean? Like I've been sitting with it for too long.
Well, Pain of the Fly Guy was that for me. I just had to get it out. It just, wherever it is, it's out. If it's
yeah. So, and I've got some of the stuff that I have written down that I want to work on is fun. I've got some neat, fun, cool, weird things. The problem is I need to be a company. If anybody would like to stop working for Matthew Colville or Wolfgang Bauer and would like to come work for me at Human Gorilla Creations, you can get in touch with me, care of this podcast, and I'll hook you up, folks. Yeah, I can't guarantee you sweet bennies, but we're going to have a ball. All right. I'm talking Elvis clones and sword and sorcery. It's going to get weird up in here. So,
all righty.
There you go.
Well, I don't think we can top Elvis clones. So I think, what's funny is I never record the intro before an interview. And then the intro is nothing what we talked about.
Do you need to re-record the intro now?
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, we were going to go further on another topic, but I think I'm hitting my own personal time space continuum, and we'll follow up with that topic.
I am always your You Up podcast guest. Okay, you don't ever just, hey, can you be on tonight? You bet it.
Yeah, in fact, literally.
Not a problem. I'm your guy. So if it comes up again or you want to do something else, you know where to find me, man.
Yeah,
I'm always up for a chat.
Well, that kid's book. Are You My Mommy? Will you be on my podcast? Will you be on my podcast? Will you be on my podcast? It's Friday night. Who doesn't have plans on a Friday night? Would you be on my podcast?
There's nothing good on Netflix. Come on, let's do this. The kids are downstairs watching the new M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'll be fine. You know,
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks again, Mark, and
always a pleasure, buddy.
All right.
Good to see you, man.
Take care.